Today's video is one to open the eyes of many of you. The question of why we still haven't squeezed and how hedge funds have managed to get away with such disgusting schemes when it is so plainly obvious what they are doing are two questions that have never been truly answered aside from technical explanations of how exactly they short the stocks. We end that today. Today's video will give a tentative explanation as to how exactly hedge funds have and keep getting away with the greatest conspiracy, the greatest scheme in the financial sector in the history of mankind. Expect some serious wrinkles to be added today. Keep in mind, today's video is one to inform you of the factual information you need, and as such the tone of the video will be dark, unlike the typical vibe of this channel. As such, I want to quickly address something. I will continue buying and continue to hold because it is the only thing that will guarantee change in fortunes. This video will give many of you the impression that hedge funds could escape their existing position, which is the reason why it is so important for you guys to watch the segment completely. Stay confident, stay focused on the goal and buy the dip. Remember, all topics discussed here are opinions and I am not a financial advisor. I simply seek for the truth and provide the findings I come across, presenting the evidence as best as I can to give you guys some perspective. If you find this video helpful, I ask that you like and share it if you can. I do not want to waste your time any longer, so let's cut through the pleasantries and dive right in. Why haven't we squeezed? How do hedge fund and friends continue to relentlessly drop the price, manipulate the markets and not face any prosecution or consequences for it? How do they doge the weight of the balance of the world so easily and exert their ambitious greed so thoroughly? These are the questions that linger on the minds of many. The answers elude us, and all roads seem to lead us nowhere, at least until now. Yesterday, I came across a snapshot of a Bloomberg terminal. I had to look at the image 10 times and double-check online from other sources to make sure it was real. The snapshot you are looking at shows over 1 million put options for GameStop. Let me say that again, because I need you to really understand what I said. According to Bloomberg Terminal, as of late last night, there were approximately over 1 million put options made for GameStop. Now, something to keep in mind is that the filed date for this data dates back to March of this year. This picture you are looking at, it's going to change everything you might have previously assumed about what is going on. Let's begin with a little math. There is a total of 1,481,856 put contracts shown on the screen. Keep in mind these are options, so the number of shares being gambled here is 148,185,600. This is many times bigger than the float of GameStop. Other people who looked at the page somehow came up with 145,185,600 shares being represented, giving them a 400% of the float. Keep in mind, people, this is not the total amount of short shares. If anyone ever had any real skepticism about the squeeze, or about GameStop even being shorted at all, please direct them to this video and this screenshot. It is quite literally undeniable. However, there is something much darker, much more sinister that will go through most people's heads. I want you to look and pay attention to the holder names that are highlighted in white color. For those of you colorblind, the holder names that we need to pay attention to are number 1, 2, and 8. These investment firms are Brazilian. We know Brazil has had serious corruption problems in the past, and this set off my alarms. A close look at these firms, and the balance that they manage seems to total close to over $1.2 billion. Big shout out to Demon Case for doing this research. Look at the number of put contracts these firms have. When we add these three investment management holdings, they come up with 1,140,000 put options, which would be 114 million shares of GameStop. When you align the typical balance sheet, these companies do not have nearly enough the capital required to be able to hold this cargo of puts. It is inconceivable, it is impossible for these clowns to be able to hold this much, yet reality once again laughs at basic mathematical improbability. However, it is not all lost. Due to the nature of these three foreign companies having largest holding of puts, we now have something we did not have before. We are one step close to the truth of it all, and with this piece of evidence we have solved one of the biggest questions to date. Short positions are being hiding and possibly swap in offshore holding accounts that are so small that most would not even acknowledge it as possible. Ladies and gentlemen, it's not only your jobs being offshored, it's your future, your money, your squeeze. This is how they are getting away with it all. But things do not stop here. If you think this is the end of the ride, strap on your belts because we aren't nearly done with this roller coaster. I remembered, and on this was around the time that the Fed authorized domestic standing repurchase agreement facility and repo facility for foreign and international monetary authorities. These facilities would serve as backstops in money markets to support implementation of smooth market functioning. But something happened this morning, something that anyone with a basic comprehension of the putrid scheme going on would have anticipated. Upon looking at the Bloomberg terminal today, all those Brazilian investments seem to have vanished, completely disappearing out of thin air, faster than Epstein at a jail cell. Let me tell you something. This finding we have, they did not want us to find it. That was a big no-no, and upon awareness of it, they quickly mobilized and the evidence was taken away. However, not before people quickly caught snapshots of it all. Our eyes are not easily deceived. Credit Suisse was also caught having 540,000 puts as of June 30th on these snapshots. What they are doing is playing a complex game of hot potato, with what I would theorize to be them passing around the hot potato, which in this case would be a huge bag of puts, so that way the big market makers aren't caught and forced to submit to the inevitable. They are delaying the squeeze by probably giving these investments in foreign countries that have a history of easy corruption some cash to take on the risk of GME and AMC. Let's step back for a moment and recap what we have found, because this is a big puzzle piece. They short a company to the point where they print naked shares and create an absolute imbalance in the markets. Then they quickly hide these put options through foreign shell companies so as to mitigate risk. They have leverage to report their holdings, and always move ahead of time as to be able to continue hiding this bag of short puts, always making sure that the hot potato is tossed and passed to someone else so that it is never found. Remember, guys, that short interest is hidden in deep calls, while failed to deliver are currently believed to be hidden in puts. What happens now? We buy and hold. There will need to be a deep investigation following the paper trail from this, but that will most likely happen after the squeeze, though this is just my own personal thought. They cannot get rid of the hot potato, and every time you buy you increase the size and temperature of the hot potato. One day, this hot potato will be so hot someone will drop it, and it won't be able to be passed anymore. On that day, we collect tendies. What do I personally think of this? I think from a cynical point of view, this is a great plan for hedge funds. They plan on kicking the can down infinitely, and all the while by creating or using shell companies to delay the squeeze. Something huge is going to need to happen. Either the economy goes bonkers and everyone gets margin called and we crash it all, and yes, this is assuming the DTCC new rulings are implemented. We could also see GameStop introduce NFTs and possibly introduce a dividend, which would actually cause a serious change. There are few but very possible things that could happen in the short term to cause the squeeze, but know that hedge funds have effectively found a very successful way to deal with the risk, and that is by passing on the put options to foreign offshore companies. Now, let's bring back the hope. Someone clarified to me that all foreign companies all have to go through the DTCC to deal with an American exchange, and that because of this, our money is covered, which makes perfect sense. Now we know exactly why the DTCC is acting so frantic and quickly. They know they are in a really bad position, and that hedge funds are betting on passing the bill to them. It is why they are so desperately introducing ruling after ruling. Our squeeze money is assured, so I don't want anyone freaking out about that in the comments. What is unknown is the next step. I will be doing a lot of research and reading to see what is most likely to happen from here on out, but for now I am happy I was able to answer some of the biggest questions and concerns. We know how hedge funds are effectively delaying the squeeze, we know how they are working the system, and we know how they are dealing with risk management. I cannot ask much from you outside of hitting the like button and sharing this as much as possible if you found this to clarify things for you. We need everyone on board with these updates. Let's discuss some updates today and wrap up the video with a recap of the performance we saw today. The Fed engaged in reverse repo operations resulting in over $987 billion. We are literally less than $13 billion from hitting $1 trillion in a single day's worth of reverse repo operations. Dark pool transactions for AMC accounted for 68% of the total volume, while GameStop's dark pool transactions account for 53% of the total volume today. According to Fidelity's data, AMC's buy order flow was much higher than the sell order flow, with GameStop having nearly 4 times the amount of buy orders than sell orders. Let us now wrap up the video with some technical analysis. AMC began the pre-market trading sideways for the most part. It did have a dip around 7 a.m., but it quickly recovered from it and remained trading close to the VWAP. As it headed close to the open hour of the markets, the stock started experiencing heavy dips. The stock went below 37.6 before coming back super strong with a run that took it to test the upper band of VWAP at $40. The stock then retraced a bit right below the VWAP before gaining some strength and having yet another run that took it higher than before above 40.20. The stock retraced below the VWAP where it entered a small bullish wedge. However, support was once broken and it continued to fall throughout the rest of the day. AMC closed at 38.13, well below the VWAP. Though the stock built some fine support at different places, due to the way it fell during the last couple of hours of trading, those support lines won't matter much. Tomorrow's fight is to try to be above $40 at best and above $35 at worst. Regardless of what they throw at us, remember to stay strong and keep in mind that the price action we see is all an illusion to scare of paper hands. GameStop began the day with a lot of volatility. The stock entered what appeared to be a descending triangle, where it would eventually break out the resistance and have a small run close to 174. GME then started to dip and continued to do so until it entered another descending triangle, where this time it failed to maintain support. The stock had another fall, though this one was not as big as the previous. The stock found consistent support right above 164. It closed at 164.86, well below the VWAP. It is clear that the battle for tomorrow will be at 165, so let's hope bulls come in droves to push the stock. Regardless, always keep in mind that current prices for GameStop as well as for AMC are all manipulated, and if we were trading in a world where securities were regulated, we would be well in the thousands of dollars right now. And with that, I want to thank you for making it to the end of the video. Let me know in the comments if you enjoyed the content today and if you found it insightful. Don't forget to drop a like, as it really helps the channel. Big shout out to Patreons. People that donate to this channel either through a Patreon pledge or single-time donation are the reason for the existence of this channel. If you are looking for a way to support, all links for one-time donations or a Patreon pledge are in the video description. Thank you for your hard contributions and consideration for this channel. As always, don't forget to subscribe if you like the channel and you are new here, and I will see you on the next one. To the moon.